Are we live? All right, let me just wait for someone to come in and let us know we are all good to go. Someone in the chat, let me know that you guys can hear me. Can y'all hear me? Anybody out there? We good out there, people? We good out there, people? Let me just check on my phone because nobody's answering. But anybody out there? Is there nobody in the chat tonight? No one's gonna say anything. It looks like we got nobody here tonight, I guess so. Guess I'll just have to end the stream. Finally, someone says something. Jeez. All right, fine. Like I honestly thought there for a sec that. Jeez. All right, fine. Like I honestly thought there for a sec that. I thought nobody was here, or maybe like the system was glitching. But now that finally someone says something, we can get started. God, like, y'all being difficult. Yeah, if I ask somebody to say you guys can hear me, just say yeah. They'll just stand there like mutes. But anyway, yeah, thank you guys for joining me. Let me just make sure everything's good on my end. I thought nobody was here, or maybe like the system was glitching, but now that. All right, let me just check something out real quick. All right, let's get back to it. All right. Yo, what's going on, everybody? It is your boy Fitz TV here, aka G133. I am back here today with another video for you guys. This is another episode of the Legit Shoot podcast, here with your Monday Night Raw review and results for June 21st, 2021. Also, we will be discussing the follow-up from Hell in a Cell. I know some of you guys were expecting a Hell in a Cell review today, but I got busy. So what I'm thinking about doing, and depending on how long the Raw review takes, there's a decent chance that we may just do a mini Hell in a Cell review right here tonight on stream. I haven't missed a WWE pay-per-view review in a very long time, so. Definitely, I don't plan to, forget to do the Hell in a Cell review. I'll be honest with you guys right off the bat. I didn't enjoy Hell in a Cell. For the most part, as bad as WWE programming can be, right, and as dreadful as Monday Night Raw can be most weeks, SmackDown is, semi-decent. It's not, good or anything, or great, but at least SmackDown's watchable most weeks. Raw isn't. Even when it comes to the bad day to be creative, at least for the most part, when it comes to pay-per-views, WWE would kind of deliver. You would get a decent pay-per-view, sometimes a really good pay-per-view. But Hell in a Cell, it may be the worst pay-per-view, for the main roster so far this year. It may be, because I didn't enjoy that show at all. There were some good matches, but I really just I found myself looking away from the screen more than looking at it. And I was pretty bored. The Bianca Belair Bayley match was good. Drew versus Bobby, even though the match started off pretty slow, it did pick up and became a really good fight, especially in the last 10 minutes. Seth and Cesaro delivered, but everything else was just like eh. Like KO and Sami Zayn, how many times can you watch that, right? And I don't even remember what else. Rhea Ripley and Charlotte, I didn't enjoy that match at all. Especially, like, I know some people be like, oh yeah, you're biased against Charlotte Flair, but I just didn't enjoy the match. I really didn't care who won. Of course, I don't want to see Charlotte as champion again, but I just didn't care at all, really. So yeah, that's my mindset on that. And I don't even remember. I know there was like a sixth match, but it's not coming to my mind right now. But that's my quick thoughts on Hell in a Cell. We will talk about the matches themselves a little bit later in the episode, because I'm gonna focus on Monday Night Raw right now, and then we'll talk about Hell in a Cell, a little bit later. And like I said, the Hell in a Cell review won't be long. I don't want to make this into a mega long stream. I'm gonna give you guys my thoughts like we usually do. We'll talk about it. I'll check the chat out real quick, and we'll do what we normally do. Super chats are open. I don't ask you guys to donate or anything. It's up to you guys. Everything that is donated, of course, does get reinvested into the channel, and I appreciate you guys' support. So if you guys want to donate, you guys want to do a super chat, you guys do know how to do that. Thank you to those who live tweet with me. As always, follow me down on social media. The links are in the description down below. Yeah. Am I missing anything? I don't think we are. This should be the pretty normal week. Especially now that Hell in a Cell is over with. I have tons of other videos planned for other topics. So, yeah. Yeah, that's my thoughts on that. Let me just check something out real quick. May 1st to May 30th. Huh. Okay. All right, anyway, we're going to end the Monday Night Raw tonight. And the big thing now... Anyway, I got a text. That's the good thing about streaming is, I don't really have to pause everything or restart everything once I get, interrupted. I can just do it live on stream. It has been hot here in the Boston area these last couple of days, bro. Oof. And I don't want to blaze the AC on too long during the stream because it does cause a little bit of noise. I went back and watched one of the other podcast episodes, and you could hear it wasn't like terrible to the point where you couldn't listen, but you can hear the AC in the background when I have it on. So I don't want to have it on for too long during the stream. But anyway, let's get into Raw tonight. As you guys know, it is now that time of year. WWE is now getting ready to go back on the road, and that's going to be big, especially, in the middle of July. We have that first, show with the return of fans officially, right? It's the final SmackDown before Money in the Bank, and, we've heard the rumors of John Cena coming back. Sasha Banks could be back on that show and all that other stuff. And then we have Money in the Bank 2 days later. And then Raw will have their first show with live fans back the night after Money in the Bank. And Money in the Bank, I consider it one of WWE's biggest pay-per-views, of course, right? Money in the Bank, we have two Money in the Bank ladder matches. Whoever wins that match, can cash in and have a championship match of their choosing for any time over the next year. And that's huge. It's almost like winning the Royal Rumble. Money in the Bank can change your career in huge aspects. And not everybody considers Money in the Bank a big fight or a big pay-per-view, but I do. For me, it's Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, SummerSlam, Survivor Series, and Money in the Bank. Those are the biggest pay-per-views to me personally. And especially, it's even bigger this year because this is the first show that WWE is officially back to what we expect it to be, having fans in attendance. Even though we have SmackDown 2 days beforehand, it's the first pay-per-view. They talked about it on Hell in a Cell, how this is the final pay-per-view in the WWE Thunderdome because WWE comes home as they go back on the road to having fans. And it's going to be great. I cannot wait to see it. As much as I trash on WWE, especially for its creativity, I'm excited for them to be back on the road. And I kind of hope that them being back on the road inspires Vince and the rest of that company to get down and put the pen to their best creative work that we've seen. Because, I bitch about it every week. WWE's creative is absolutely horrific. And, it is possible for, since they're going back on the road, since they're going to have fans back, the excitement and the morale with the backstage superstars and the staff and everybody has to be up because they're finally getting back to what is normal, what they love to do, right? Even though this Thunderdome era allowed some certain superstars to, really become better, and it's changed, made their careers better, right? Even though this Thunderdome era did a lot for some superstars and some people, right? It's going to be good for them to get back to what they know and what they love. There's nothing better than having a live, rocking WWE crowd. And I'm really hoping that them going back on the road, especially with Money in the Bank, one of the more important shows of the year, that this, inspires you to really get down and, make some good creative choices. And Raw tonight, it wasn't anything special, right? There was some good in-ring action, and the big thing, of course, was the start of these Money in the Bank qualifying matches, to see who would be in the Money in the Bank ladder matches for both the women and the men. And the show wasn't good or anything, but still, I'm just hoping, especially now that we still have about 4 weeks till Money in the Bank, that the build is decent. We're hearing all these rumors. There was backstage rumors earlier today that Becky Lynch is almost ready to come back. She was working out at the WWE Performance Center this past week. Plus, she was at Hell in a Cell. She was backstage at the Thunderdome last night. So she is close to being back. I expect Becky Lynch to come back either at Money in the Bank or that first Raw after Money in the Bank. Who knows? Maybe Becky's the final entrant in the Money in the Bank ladder match. They can definitely do something like that. That would not surprise me at all. Or they might have her come out the night after Money in the Bank and challenge whoever wins the Rhea Ripley Charlotte match, right? Even though personally, I think there's no way Charlotte isn't in the Raw Women's title match at SummerSlam. It's either going to be Becky Lynch versus Charlotte, or it's going to be Becky versus Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley. I would love to see Becky versus Rhea one-on-one, as much as I complain about Rhea, but there's no way they're not going to have Charlotte in that Raw Women's Championship match at SummerSlam. No way, right? Plus, the big return I've been thinking about, John Cena, of course, right? One of my favorites, my favorite WWE superstar all time after Sasha Banks, of course. I've been telling you guys all year that I want to see John Cena versus Roman Reigns. This version of Roman Reigns. And, that being the main event of SummerSlam would be absolutely incredible. We know Cena's going to come back. Eventually, he's said it in interviews. And I really hope, they have him come back, on that first SmackDown before Money in the Bank. So those are just two exciting returns for WWE. The third one would be Brock Lesnar. That would probably be the least exciting out of the other two, because we've seen so much of Lesnar. But, I want to see Lesnar, of course, because I want to see Lesnar versus Bobby Lashley, hopefully at SummerSlam for the WWE Championship. And I would hope Bobby Lashley would actually win that match if we end up getting it. And we heard that Lesnar is close to, making a new deal with WWE. And we all knew that Lesnar would eventually come back. The reason why he didn't re-sign with WWE when his contract expired because they were still in the Thunderdome. We were still in COVID, right? We still had, didn't really have a big idea of when we were going to have things get back to some kind of new normal. Now that we know, and now that, the world is recovering slowly and, things are getting back to somewhat of normal, Lesnar's going to come back. And it's going to be interesting. I just learned today that Lesnar's 44, which is crazy. How fast the years go by, right? It was just back in, 2002, 2003, when Lesnar first won the WWE Championship from The Rock at SummerSlam. And then, the next big thing, and Lesnar was, at the time, I believe, the youngest world champion in WWE history, if I'm correct. And now here we are, 2021, and, Lesnar's already 44, which is crazy. So Lesnar's probably not going to be wrestling for that much longer. Yeah, unless he wants to be like The Undertaker and wrestle into his 50s. So definitely using Lesnar to the best of his ability now and using him to put people over, that should be priority. So those big three things, Lesnar, Cena, and Becky, those three big returns alone should be inspiring WWE to put their best foot forward, especially as we go back to the return of fans. And you guys got to remember, we are on the road to SummerSlam. We are on the road to SummerSlam. I say this all the time. WWE should have, especially for their biggest shows like the Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, Mania, Money in the Bank, SummerSlam. They should have, plans in place for those shows months in advance. And we've heard the rumors about Cena versus Reigns, Sasha versus Bianca, Brock versus, potentially Bobby Lashley, and, Becky Lynch coming back and most likely being featured in the Raw Women's Championship match. We've heard that WWE's been, wanting to do some of those matches now for a couple months now. But now that we're actually getting near the return of fans in about a month, and with SummerSlam on the horizon, hopefully now WWE can start putting the seeds in place so that SummerSlam could be an amazing show and could be even bigger than the 2 nights of WrestleMania that we got. We've heard WWE say, they want SummerSlam to be, the WrestleMania of this year. Because you're not going to have because at WrestleMania, they only had 14,000 people. And it was good to have fans for that event, but at SummerSlam, that new arena in Las Vegas, I believe it could fit close to 70,000 people, if I'm right. I could be wrong on that, but it could host a lot of people. And I really want SummerSlam to be the biggest show. I don't plan to go to SummerSlam this year, but I want it to be, a really successful show. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on that. But, like I said, Raw wasn't even that good tonight, but I'm more looking towards the future because Money in the Bank is what I'm looking at. That weekend is going to be huge with SmackDown, Money in the Bank, and Raw. That's going to be a huge weekend for, podcasts and content creators like myself and for fans of wrestling everywhere. Especially now with fans coming back in attendance, I want to get back to being more consistent with the SmackDown reviews because when fans are back, big things are going to be happening. Sasha will probably be back by then. So I want to make sure I'm giving you guys the content you guys want. And, so a lot of stuff. And I apologize real quick. I know I'm rambling a little bit to open, but that's just my mindset right now looking at WWE, especially after the fall of Hell in a Cell and Monday Night Raw tonight. Like I said, Raw wasn't really a good show, but, you gotta remember, all of this is building towards Money in the Bank and SummerSlam, right? So yeah. What up, Edward? What up, Dog? What up, Braxton and everybody else in the chat? So like I said, Raw tonight was centered around these Money in the Bank qualifying matches, and the qualifying matches were very, very interesting. Right? I'm not in terms of if the match was good or not, but more about the matchups we saw. For example, AJ Styles versus Ricochet. We've seen that match on Monday Night Raw numerous times, especially in the last year. How many times we've seen Styles versus Ricochet? I would say probably 5 or 6 times. And even if you're like, no, you're wrong, go back. I'm willing to bet if you looked at all the Monday Night Raws and all the matches Styles has had in the last year on the show, he's faced Ricochet a lot. You know, we also had Randy Orton versus John Morrison, a battle of two heels. We also had Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax versus Nikki Cross and Alexa Bliss, former tag team champions, and especially we'll talk about Nikki Cross and her new gimmick. We also had Asuka and Naomi going up against Eva Marie and I don't even want to say like the name. I really hate what DDB did here, but we had Dewdrop. Yeah, we'll talk about that and how horrific that was, and how I don't know. Look, bro. Piper Niven. I don't know why they would disrespect Piper Niven by having her called Dewdrop. And what's the point of bringing back Eva Marie if this is what you're gonna do to her? This is legit the same thing we saw with Eva Marie during her first initial run in WWE all those years ago. But we'll talk about that in a little bit. But those were the big Money in the Bank. Oh yeah, we also had Riddle versus Drew McIntyre. And there were some shocking winners from those matches. So we will talk about all of those on tonight's podcast. But opening up the show. Why is this girl texting me? Anyway, so the show opened up with an edition of the MVP Lounge, right? Bobby Lashley celebrating his win last night against Drew McIntyre. And we all know, even though Bobby won, that was because MVP, did get involved. The big thing is that Drew can no longer challenge for the WWE Championship again as long as Bobby Lashley is champion. But basically Lashley had the girls in the ring, and they were planning to have a toast, and then Kofi Kingston and Xavier Woods threw toast at them. I didn't like that. Stop with these childish things. If you're gonna have Kofi Kingston back in the WWE title picture, can we have him be serious Kofi? The Kofi we got when he was going up against Daniel Bryan? The Kofi we got just a couple weeks ago when him and Drew McIntyre, in my opinion, put on the best TV match we've seen all year on WWE television. Right? Let's not play these games. Okay? But either way, Kingston said that his win over Lashley last month should make him the number one contender, and he played the footage to rub it in, which is right. Me and my boy Paul, I know Paul's not in the chat at the moment, but we talked about this at LinkedIn, our Discord server. Kofi beating McIntyre should have made him, or not McIntyre, beating Lashley or pinning Lashley should have made him the number one contender. No ands, ifs, or buts about it. But they did have the match with McIntyre 2 weeks in a row, and then McIntyre won, whatever. But I told you guys, okay, but Kingston better be the number one contender after McIntyre loses at Hell in a Cell. Kofi should be next in line. And they kind of teased that the last couple of weeks with those backstage segments that they did with Kofi and MVP. So I was kind of happy that they didn't really play any games. They didn't have like last week saying after like who's going to be my next challenger. They just got straight to the point, having Kofi challenge Lashley. I had no problem with that. So all of a sudden, Kingston challenged Lashley to a match at Money in the Bank, and without any hesitation, Lashley quickly accepted. Right, and MVP was a little bit shocked by Lashley's decision. He kind of he also kind of was like, and he tried to convince Lashley to just do the match tonight and get it over with. But and if they had gone that direction, it would have been the same thing that we saw a month ago, Remember where Lashley said he was going to do the open challenge the night after WrestleMania Backlash when he beat McIntyre and Strowman, and then Kofi answered the open challenge, and instead they just did. Instead, Lashley and MVP took back the promise of the WWE title being on the line, at the last minute, and then it was just a normal one-on-one match. So if MVP had got his way, they would have just done that again. And I was kind of glad they were like, no, this is actually going to be for the WWE title at Money in the Bank. But Lashley then took the mic, and I didn't mind this at all either. Well, no. I had a problem with the stipulation. I had no problem with the challenge that Lashley made. Lashley said, I want to make sure that your boy Xavier Woods can't get involved. So it's just me and you. Even though technically it makes Lashley sound a little bit like a hypocrite because we all know MVP gets involved in most of Lashley's championship matches. So I was like, you're being a little bit hypocritical there, champ. But Lashley said that he challenged Xavier Woods to a match and then, was accepted. I have no problem with Xavier Woods versus Bobby Lashley. No problem with that. My problem is what Xavier Woods said afterwards. Xavier said that he wanted to face Lashley tonight inside Hell in a Cell, and so there could be no running from the ass whooping he was going to get. And this is where I'm just like, this is why I can't stand this company. Hell in a Cell is supposed to be one of the most special matches in WWE. It's a stipulation that calls for a blood feud, right? When things have become so crazy that, you put them in Hell in a Cell because the brutality calls for that place to be where the feud ends. And I always use Undertaker and Mankind as the example of that. In recent years, Hell in a Cell has become less and less special because WWE has turned it instead into a gimmick pay-per-view. Just because you have the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view, you have to put these matches inside Hell in a Cell, which is not what Hell in a Cell was originally meant to be. We've seen pay-per-views in the last couple of years where there's been 2 to 3 Hell in a Cell matches, right? Now, in just this weekend, if you include the Xavier Woods and Bobby Lashley match we've gotten 4 Hell in a Cell matches. And, on top of that, you already have that terrible red cage design. Nobody likes the red cage. If you're going to do a Hell in a Cell match, just use the normal cage, the silver one. The red cage, the more we see it, the more disgusted people get with it. And the thing is, you take away the special scenery that Hell in a Cell is supposed to give. When we get in Hell in a Cell match, it's supposed to feel special. It doesn't feel special anymore. It feels more and more like a normal steel cage match, if we're being honest. We just saw Roman Reigns defend the Universal Championship on SmackDown against Rey Mysterio in a underwhelming Hell in a Cell match, right? Because you had commercial breaks and all that. You had 2 Hell in a Cell matches on Sunday, Bianca Belair and Bayley, and, McIntyre and Bobby Lashley. And then you did another Hell in a Cell match the night after on Monday Night Raw, Lashley versus Xavier Woods. And one of those men that was, that was in that match tonight in Bobby Lashley had just competed in a Hell in a Cell match the night prior. So you're overdoing the gimmick of Hell in a Cell. And clearly this has to be with the TV networks. I can't see, people backstage, coming up to Vince McMahon and being like, let's do Hell in a Cell matches on Raw and SmackDown. Especially when we have a pay-per-view on Sunday. This was clearly the networks. Clearly Fox, and I haven't read on why Roman versus Ray was moved to SmackDown on Friday. I didn't really care much. I didn't care much about Roman and Reign or Roman versus Ray. Anyway, I didn't care if it was on the pay-per-view. I didn't really care if it was on SmackDown, to be honest. Right? So it's maybe someone in the chat can answer why that match was moved to being on Friday. Maybe someone can answer that for me. But I didn't care much about it, but I didn't think USA Network would go tell WWE, oh, let's just do another Hell in a Cell match on Monday. We did one on Friday. It only makes sense for us to do one on Monday. No. You're supposed to be preserving the specialty, right, that Hell in a Cell is supposed to be. Hell in a Cell is supposed to be a special match. It's supposed to be a special match. Think of some of the best Hell in a Cell matches of all time. Freaking, like I said, Mankind and The Undertaker. Like, I don't even have to list anything else. Triple H and Batista. There's a lot of really good ones. But WWE has done, especially in these last couple of years, especially this year, WWE has done a lot to take away everything that is special about Hell in a Cell. And now it makes me, coming out, especially after this show tonight, you're making me not want to watch Hell in a Cell anymore. You're making me not want to see the match return. Because to me, like I just said a couple minutes ago, Hell in a Cell now feels like a steel cage match. And that should not be the case. Hell in a Cell should be treated like one of the most special matches in WWE history. That's the way it's supposed to feel. But it doesn't feel that way. It doesn't. And look, how long until we start seeing Elimination Chamber matches on Raw or SmackDown? Is that what you're gonna? Is that what we're gonna see going forward? Are we gonna see that huge ass chamber match, that huge ass chamber on a Raw or SmackDown? No. Stop looking. Stop looking and listening to what these damn TV executives have to say. I know they care about their ratings and everything, but they don't know shit about wrestling. All they care about is their fucking money. That's all they care about. They don't know anything about the business. They don't know anything about creativity. They know nothing. They know absolutely nothing. You should not be doing a Hell in a Cell match on TV. I don't care if it's SmackDown. I don't care if it's Monday Night Raw. Do not do Hell in a Cell matches on TV. We just saw 4 Hell in a Cell matches this weekend. 4. We should not be seeing Hell in a Cell return for a long time. A very long time. Because you're taking away everything that is special about that match. Okay? I have no problem with Xavier Woods and Bobby Lashley having a match tonight. No problem with that. But putting it inside Hell in a Cell, ridiculous. Really. Alright? But I will say this. Out of everything that came from this opening segment, I am happy that we are getting Kofi Kingston versus Bobby Lashley. I told you guys this is the match we should be getting, and we are getting it. So WWE will get a point for that correct decision. I'll give them credit. I don't think Kofi's going to beat Bobby Lashley. Would I complain if Kofi beat Bobby Lashley at Money in the Bank? No. You guys know I love Kofi Kingston. And I've been ranting for the last month that Kofi Kingston should be a main event player for WWE. He is that good at what he does. He's one of the most underrated superstars in that entire company. People forget how great Kofi's WWE Championship reign was a couple years ago. And I have to remind people of how good that reign is all the time. So I'm happy he's back in the main event scene. And I would have no problem with him beating Bobby Lashley at Money in the Bank. But I know it's not going to happen. I know Bobby Lashley's going to win. And I hope that after Lashley wins, we see Brock Lesnar return and we can get the Bobby Lashley-Brock Lesnar match at SummerSlam. Hopefully. All right? Yo, I see Eric Eric Jean-Baptiste in the chat. Eric, it's like, Fitzbook, it's time to throw in the towel. Time to move on. Oh my gosh, this guy is funny. You know, I'll let you guys know this before we get back to the Monday Night Raw review. On the side, you know, a couple times a month, I do a comic book podcast. It's called Comic Book Therapy, where we just talk about Marvel and sometimes DC and other things going on in comic books, right? You know, and it's really fun. Because you guys know I love Marvel. So I see Eric joking in the chat. So I think Eric's one of the first people that I do the podcast with, and along with one of my friends, Nate, who you guys have seen on the channel here before. So if you guys want to hear my thoughts on Marvel topics, right? It's not just me doing the podcast. You know, it's kind of like how my bro Anthony, who's in the chat right now, right? Anthony, I know you're out there. You know, you guys remember back in the day, Anthony was my co-host for this podcast. You know, I have 2 other co-hosts for for this comic book podcast we do. So if you guys want to hear my thoughts on Marvel and other things, comic books, right? Make sure to go check out Comic Book Therapy. Let me make sure. I'm just gonna take a second to look up on Google. Let me see. Let me see. Jeez, oh my god, I'm having trouble finding it on the YouTube search bar. But what I'm gonna do actually, I'm gonna find the link. If someone could put Eric, if you could put the link real quick in the chat, I can put the link in my description because I can't find it on YouTube. It's because we're not. It's because we haven't went viral yet. Give it a couple. Give it some time, especially with all the Marvel shows like Loki and Black Widow and the Eternals and Spider-Man 3 and everything else. In the next couple months. Wait till we go viral. It'll be easier to find. But I will make sure to put that in the description, right? I'll put that in the. It's like I almost planned for you to do this. I'll put that in the description for you guys. So if you guys want to go check that out on your spare time, you guys can. Eric, man, that's a great example of marketing right there. I did study marketing. Uh, I did study marketing as a minor in college. So there, Eric just provided us with a perfect example of how the market. So that was great. That was great. So put the link in the chat, Eric. I'll copy that and put it in the description box, and I'll probably put it in the description template after the stream, so that every video it's there for you guys to check out. But yeah, that's a nice little plug. Plugging out something else I do. It is done on a different channel. It's not done on this channel. This channel is focused on wrestling and anime. But yeah, if you guys are interested in that and you guys love hearing me talk about wrestling, if you guys love comic books and you want to hear your boy talk about comics and Marvel and DC and all that good stuff, there you go. There you go. So a nice little aside. So I'm gonna get back to the Raw review, but whenever the link to the podcast is put in there by Eric, I will let you guys know and I'll put that in the description box as well. Anyway, let's get back to Monday Night Raw, right? But like I was saying, I'm happy that we're getting Kofi versus Bobby Lashley at Money in the Bank, and I honestly think it has the chance to be one of the better pay-per-view matches of the year. We just saw Kofi versus Drew, and that was in my opinion the best TV match of the year for WWE television. I think Kofi versus Bobby, we all know how good Bobby Lashley is. And, you guys should know. I know there's some people that are uneducated, but you guys should know how good Kofi Kingston is. I think Kofi and Lashley could, have the potential to give us, one of the best pay-per-view matches of the year. I really do think that. But, we'll see. We still got weeks away till Money in the Bank, but we'll see how things go with this feud going forward. And we'll talk about Xavier Woods. We'll talk about Xavier Woods versus Bobby Lashley here in a little bit. Anyway, getting into our first Money in the Bank qualifying match, we had AJ Styles versus Ricochet. And honestly, I thought Styles was going to win this match, right? Because what has WWE done to make you believe in anything Ricochet does? Ricochet has been one of the most underutilized talents in WWE. We just seen him the last month come back to WWE TV for the feud with Sheamus. And, they get involved in Sheamus and Humberto's U.S. Championship feud. So it wasn't like, WWE has done anything to make you believe in Ricochet. And like I said earlier, we've seen Ricochet versus Styles how many times over the last year, especially in the Thunderdome. We know how good Ricochet and Styles are. They've had some really great matches. Remember when they were feuding over the United States Championship? They had a couple of bangers. Every time Styles and Ricochet are in the ring together, they put on a great match. This match was okay. It wasn't, as great as some of those other matches, but still, it was decent for what it was. And the big thing here is that Ricochet upsetted AJ Styles. And we saw some pretty massive upsets tonight, which we'll talk about as we go through the rest of the show. But Ricochet beating AJ Styles clean, right, was huge. It was huge. Do I see Ricochet going on to win Money in the Bank? No, I do not. I do not think Ricochet will win Money in the Bank. But I'm happy that he's being utilized. And we know that the Money in the Bank ladder match is the perfect place for someone like Ricochet to absolutely give us some show-stealing moments. Remember the NXT North American Championship ladder match a couple years ago? Remember how great Ricochet was in that match? I expect Ricochet to do something crazy at Money in the Bank. I expect him to be one of the show stealers at that show. I don't think Ricochet is going to win the match, but I can definitely see him having an amazing performance. And I'm happy that he gets this chance. AJ Styles doesn't need Money in the Bank. Someone of AJ Styles' caliber, he can get a championship match on his own anytime he wants. Plus, he's already part of a championship team. He's one half of the Raw Tag Team champions with Almas, who are locked in a feud with the Viking Raiders at the moment. So, Styles doesn't need a title. He doesn't need to be in that match. So, I liked how they gave Ricochet the opportunity. It's rare that WWE makes a good decision on Raw, but they did make the right decision here. A decent match, and Ricochet qualifies for the men's Money in the Bank qualifying, or the Money in the Bank match. Money in the Bank ladder match. So, I'm happy for Ricochet that he's going to get this opportunity, and, Styles will be fine. They're continuing their feud with the Viking Raiders. I don't know when that match is going to be. The Viking Raiders did have something to do with tonight's match. They ran down at one point and were fighting with Almas at ringside. And then they rammed him through the barricade, which did distract Styles and gave Ricochet the chance to win the match. So we'll see. I don't know if they're going to do that match next week. I don't know if they're going to do that match in Money in the Bank, But, still. Like I said, Styles and Almas versus the Viking Raiders, that's more of a filler feud. I don't see Styles and Almas losing those titles. If anybody's going to take those titles from Styles and Almas, it should be RK Bro. And I would probably do that at SummerSlam. But for right now, no problems with this. So WWE makes the right decision here. I like what Gregory says. Ricochet won the match to jump off the ladders. True. And Eric says, the dumpster fire that is Raw. I know Eric doesn't watch the show, but at least he realizes how garbage the show is. So we had some superstars complaining about not being in Money in the Bank qualifiers, but they didn't even do all of the Money in the Bank qualifying matches tonight. Right? We still have two, I believe there's 2 more men's Money in the Bank qualifying matches for next week. So, there still is, I believe so. Plus, we gotta remember, we gotta put there's gonna be individuals from SmackDown in that match as well. But still, there were some superstars complaining about not being in the Money in the Bank ladder match. So I'm gonna play that clip for you guys real quick.
Over and over again.
I am a former WWE champion. Why am I not competing for Money in the Bank?
That's a great point, man. Except I'm also a former WWE champion.
See, that's the problem. All these antiques talking about what they did in the past. It's with WWE hitting the road again, it is time to invest in someone with their best years ahead of them. Someone like me.
Cedric, are you forgetting about my victories over you the last few weeks? Maybe you should stop future tripping and worry more about the current beatings here in the present from this antique.
You're gonna bring up all stuff, Jeff?
Oh yeah, we're taking all stuff right now.
Relax. I understand your frustrations regarding the Money in the Bank qualifying matches. That being said, they're final.
Final.
Listen, don't be listening to these bleeding gobshites. I'm the US champ, yeah, the champ. I shouldn't even have to bleeding qualify for Money in the Bank. I should be entered in automatically because I'm wearing the gold, I'm saying.
Automatically? So your nose is good and you can defend that title?
What? Yeah.
Me not talking about my nose is bleeding, killing me. It's smashed, it's in ribbons, it's broken. Ruined my beauty, the looks are broken. What are you trying to say? I'm gonna see a doctor. Come in later, man, later. I'm gonna see a doctor.
So let me get this straight. I'm supposed to just accept the fact that 2 nobodies like Riddle and Ricochet were considered that Johnny Drip Drip? Over the modern day Maharaja? The fact that Drew McIntyre is
The modern day Maharaja. Just had to say that.
about to squander his opportunity for the 9,000th time this year. McIntyre is about to squander his opportunity for the 9,000th time this year. You know what? I'm sure you had your reasons. I apologize. Thank you for your considerations. Oh, in case something were to happen to one of the participants in the Money in the Bank match and they're unable to make it, I strongly would appreciate it if you would consider me as an alternate.
Anyway, we're back. Let's get back to it. So, what's crazy is WWE has a lot of talent right in that, just in that small little segment. Most of those superstars won't be in the won't be in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. But it's just crazy, man. I have to remind myself how much talent WWE actually has on their roster, even with all the releases they make during the year, right? And we complain of how all these superstars had so much potential that WWE didn't use. WWE still left with massive amounts of talent on their roster that is still not being used. It's just crazy to think about. But yes, next up, we had Asuka and Naomi versus Eva Marie and Doudrop. This was horrific. You guys have heard me bitch and moan about Eva Marie and how she should have never been brought back, right? Last week we had the debut of Eva Marie, even though it wasn't even a debut, right? Instead, we had Piper Niven from NXT wrestle on behalf of Eva Marie. Legit on behalf of her. And what was worse is that they didn't even give Piper a name. She was just, viewed as this nameless wrestler, right? So WWE was already insulting your intelligence, especially for those who watch WWE NXT UK, and you guys know who Piper is, right? So an insult of your intelligence. So they had Piper beat Naomi, and this week, I guess continue the feud or whatever. They had Asuka and Naomi versus Eva Marie and Piper. Before the match, Eva Marie was interviewed backstage, and she was asked, why did she wrestle last week, right? And why did she have Piper wrestle behalf of her or on behalf for her? So Eva, talked about how before before Raw she got her nails done and she didn't want to get them all dirty, something like that, a bunch of bullshit, and then how, a couple minutes beforehand, she was able to find somebody that was willing to do it for her. And instead, Eva then asked Piper what her name was, because she had seemingly forgot it, right? Right as Piper was about to say what her name was, Eva stopped her, and then Eva was like, your name is Doudrop. Doudrop. Very, very disrespectful, right? Doudrop. So not only are they insulting your intelligence for those of you guys who didn't know who Piper was in NXT UK, but then they disrespect her by calling her Doudrop. I'm not going to get into all of that because if you guys have been on social media this week, you guys know the whole thing about Doudrop. So I'm not going to get into all that, but you guys, it's ridiculous. Eric goes like, it's almost like they are writing this an hour before they go live. Oh, wait. Yeah, because we all know, how many times have we heard the reports of Vince McMahon totally ripping up the script and then rewriting the show an hour beforehand. So, look, this is just like Eva Marie. Nothing's changed. This is the exact same Eva Marie from back in 2016. Nothing's changed. Eva using all these excuses to get out of her matches. What the hell is this evolution bullcrap that we're seeing? What is this evolution stuff? I said the only way I would accept this is if Eva came back and actually wrestled and showed us some improvement. This is worse than back in 2016. Worse. And remember, back then we were getting Eva Marie having wardrobe malfunctions. What is this? You released, and I'm going to say the same thing I said last week. You released superstars like Ruby Riott with actual potential, with actual talent. You release superstars like that to bring in Eva Marie, who still can't wrestle and are still using the same stupid heel gimmicks in 2021. Why? Well, what makes you think that this is entertaining and this is what we want to see? It's not. It's horrific. It's horrific. I'm saying you guys right now, how long till Eva Marie is in the Raw Women's Championship picture? It's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. We may have been spared from having to think about her winning Money in the Bank tonight. We may have been spared. But here's the thing. Well, I don't even know if you've been spared. Because they could always put Eva Marie in a last woman, or what is it called? A last chance qualifying match. Look, the Eva Marie stuff is horrific. And if you have any sense of approval for any of this, then you're watching the wrong television show. And you're just delusional. There's nobody with a right sense of mind that thinks this is good. It's not. It's the same gimmick, just as she has pink hair. That's it. And how does Piper have to feel? Right? If I'm Piper, how would I feel personally getting called up to the main roster, having my gimmick changed, having my name changed, and then being viewed as Eva Marie's lackey? It doesn't get any more disrespectful than that. It doesn't. It's like, I just don't know, man. I don't get how these people come up with these decisions. I don't. But anyway, let's get to the match itself. So Asuka was able to get in a few good moves on Piper before or Doudrop. I don't believe we actually have to call her that. But Asuka was able to get some good moves in on Doudrop before Naomi got in. Doudrop whipped her into the corner and hit a standing splash followed by a cannonball. Then Doudrop had Naomi to progress his position. Eva tagged herself in and made the cover for a 2 count. So Eva tried to take advantage and get the win for herself. Even though she didn't realize that if Piper wins, she wins too, because that would qualify her for the Money in the Bank match. But whatever, right? So the second that Naomi kicked out, Eva tried to tag Doudrop back in. But Doudrop, actually with some sense, right? She saw this as disrespect and she dropped from the apron. She refused to tag back in and left Eva for herself, and Naomi rode Eva up for the win. Naomi and Asuka qualify for Money in the Bank. Look, I'm happy that Naomi and Asuka won, and I have been saying, for those who watch the podcast every week, I have been saying that Naomi and Asuka, Naomi should win Money in the Bank. Right? You guys can confirm this. I said for months, before Aleister Black was released, I said I would have either Naomi or Sonya Deville win the women's Money in the Bank match, and then I would have Aleister Black win the men's Money in the Bank match. Naomi winning is on the table. Do I think WWE is smart enough to have her win it? Absolutely not. This is WWE we're talking about. Right? We have no idea who the favorites are for the match. We don't even know who's going to be in the match because the field isn't set and most likely won't be set for at least another 2 weeks. But, I am happy that Naomi is in the match. Asuka's not going to win it. She's just there to fill in bodies. Asuka's not going to win it because she just won last year. It's going to be somebody different this year. Right? I'm more just happy, that one, Naomi's in the match, so there's a chance Naomi could win it. And two, Eva Marie isn't in the match. Even though I'm still scared because they can always do, like I said, they can always do a last chance qualifying match and Eva could get her way in that way. We still have to see how things, how the field is made in the next couple weeks, right? You never know. Maybe Becky or Sasha Banks is in there. We don't know. We have honestly no idea who's going to be in the Money to Make qualifying match. We don't have any idea who's even the favorite really to win it right now, So I'm happy for, at least for right now, Eva isn't in there. But like I said, this gimmick is terrible. It is terrible. Eva has been back now for 2 weeks, and in 2 matches, she has done nothing. The most she's done is a freaking pin attempt. This is really what you hyped us up for? This is what you spent a month and a half giving us those horrific video packages for? Really? For her to do only a pin attempt in 2 weeks of wrestling? Seriously? Are we actually going to see Eva wrestle? And I actually want to see Eva have at least one match. Show me that you have something to offer. Just do that for me. Please. Stop with this gimmick. Stop with this trash. Stop being this, heel that tries to get out to do everything. Take, shortcuts at every corner, right? Tries to be lazy and have other people do the work for her. If Eva truly is back and she is better, show it to me. Show it to me. That's all I'm asking for. I hate this nonsense, man. Anthony, my bro, Anthony said something. Let's see what Anthony said. George, Flair beating Rhea at Money in the Bank. Asuka's going to win Money in the Bank, try to cash in on Flair the same night, and lose. So that's Anthony's prediction for Money in the Bank. I hope you're wrong. Why? Why would you give Asuka Money in the Bank to do that? There's no point. She was Raw Women's Champion earlier this year. She successfully cashed in. Well, she successfully cashed in Money in the Bank last year when Becky Lynch vacated the Raw Women's title and revealed that the Raw Women's Championship was inside the Money in the Bank briefcase. So what the hell are we doing here? No. I hope you're wrong, Anthony. If you're right, you heard it here from Anthony first. But no. Absolutely not. I hope you're wrong on that. I have no idea who's going to win Money in the Bank, but I do hope that you're wrong on that prediction. It's not supposed to make sense. It's WWE. Yeah, of course we know WWE doesn't make sense. Of course it's not supposed to make sense. But why? Why would you waste Money in the Bank on Asuka trying to cash in the same night and lose? I could definitely see Charlotte beating Rhea Ripley at Money in the Bank. No, it probably will happen. It probably will happen. If Rhea hasn't beat Charlotte clean, if Rhea didn't pin Charlotte at WrestleMania Backlash, that's why Asuka was in the match, so Asuka could take the fall. They had Rhea get herself intensely disqualified last night at Hell in a Cell, right? If they didn't have Rhea pin Charlotte in the last two pay-per-views, I don't see them winning, or I don't see them doing it at Money in the Bank. I think we all know that Charlotte's probably going to be Rhea for that title eventually, most likely it being at Money in the Bank. And most likely, Charlotte's going to go on to face Becky at SummerSlam, and maybe Rhea has a chance to make that triple threat. We'll see, right? But what's the point of wasting Money in the Bank on Asuka having a failed cash-in? Asuka shouldn't even be winning the match. And I'm an Asuka fan, but no, give it to somebody else. So Anthony, I know, I see your point, but I hope you're wrong. I hope you're wrong, because that would be ridiculous. I'm tired of WWE wasting Money in the Bank. You wasted it last year with Otis, right? And him having to drop it to the Miz. I hated that. This year, give me 2 legit Money in the Bank winners. Money in the Bank is supposed to be something special, not viewed as a joke. So, I hope you're wrong. Gregory says Naomi is for sure winning. Alexa, Asuka, Bliss, and Cross are all ahead of her from Vince's pecking order of the women's division. Also, Bayley and Liv will likely be in the match. I don't know. I would, like I said, Gregory, I would love to see Naomi win the match. That's who I would give it to. Naomi or Sonya. I don't think Sonya's going to be in the match. So I would love to see Naomi. That would be my favorite, right? That would be the pick I want. I don't think it's going to happen, but that's the pick I would want to see. But I don't know. I have no idea who's going to win Money in the Bank. We still have no idea who's going to be in the match. Sasha could be in it. We don't know. Sasha doesn't need Money in the Bank, but she could be in the match, right? Becky could be in the match. Becky doesn't need Money in the Bank, but we just don't know. It's too early. We don't know who's left in the field. I could see Bailey and Liv being in the field from SmackDown, and potentially Carmella, but I don't know yet. Anyway, so we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. All right, so yeah, we'll see. Moving on. Or speaking of Rhea Ripley and Charlotte. Oh my gosh. First of all, I'm just gonna say now, right? Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair was trash last night. It was garbage. I didn't enjoy that match at all. You guys know, even though a lot of people say I'm biased against Charlotte Flair because I don't like her, and I say she's the most overrated female star in WWE history, right? Look, she's had some really good matches in the past. This match wasn't good at all. I didn't enjoy it. First of all, who the hell am I supposed to be rooting for? Rhea Ripley is not a babyface. You have not booked her like a babyface. The way Rhea Ripley has been presented on TV has been horrific. So, no. First of all, if anything, Rhea's a tweener. Rhea was a heel against Asuka, and you made her a tweener the second you brought Charlotte in. Because Charlotte is a full-on heel. And the thing about it is you have done nothing to make me care about this feud. Nothing. Like, this is bad. Everything about this feud has been bad. So the match last night with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte was bad, in my opinion. Rhea got herself intensely disqualified to remain Raw Women's Champion. So you had to sit through a 15-minute match, right, just for Rhea to get herself intensely disqualified. Those are the matches I hate. Those are the matches I hate, man. You have to sit here, and especially for matches that people are invested into. I wasn't invested into this match, so I just stood there like, okay, wow. This is just to get the feud to go in there a month, right? So when I saw it, I was like, wow, waste of time. That's 15 minutes that I won't get back. And Rhea got herself intensely disqualified, and then, as she was leaving, she's celebrating like she got the victory, which I hate. That's a clear example that Rhea isn't a babyface. If Rhea was a babyface, she would be frustrated, right, that she didn't win clean. But she got herself intensely disqualified, and she's celebrating like, she's celebrating like she had just beat Charlotte clean. What kind of presentation is that? That's terrible. That's terrible. This is part of the reason why I can't stand Rhea Ripley on the main roster. The way she's presented and the way she's booked is awful. Everything about her, from her promo skills to her mannerisms to the way she's booked in matches, she doesn't have the same intensity that she had in NXT. Why are you celebrating when you got yourself intensely disqualified? How is that going to make you look like a babyface? Why would I root for you? Like, I remember when Becky Lynch beat Sasha Banks at Classic... she didn't beat her. When Becky and Sasha Banks had the disqualification at Classic Champions in 2019, Becky wasn't happy. Yes, she was still the Raw Women's Champion, but she wasn't happy that she beat Sasha. She didn't beat Sasha. It was a disqualification. So she was she was happy to be Raw Women's Champion, but she was still frustrated because as a babyface, you want to get that decisive win. Heels will win at any means necessary. They don't care. But a babyface has a totally different mindset and perspective. So everything you do at Rhea Ripley, you're doing nothing to make me want to cheer for her. You put on a bad match, then you have a bad ending, and then you want me to watch this for another month? Seriously? You want me to sit through this garbage for another month? Terrible. Terrible. So tonight, Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville, they call Rhea Ripley to the ring. And they're like, your actions as Raw Women's Champion are unacceptable, right? You intentionally got yourself disqualified. And Rhea didn't deny it. Rhea said, I was just doing the same thing Charlotte has had. Cutting the same corners that Charlotte has to get where she is, right? So she basically admitted, like, yes, I got myself intentionally disqualified. So, wow, you're doing a great job, WWE, making me want to see Rhea Ripley win. Why, as a fan, because most of the time, right, a babyface and a heel, you're supposed to want to cheer for the babyface, right? What are you doing to make me want to cheer for Rhea Ripley? You're doing everything in my power to not give a crap at all. I already don't care about Charlotte, and you're doing nothing to help me want to care. You're doing nothing to make me want to care about Rhea Ripley. You ever admit that, yes, I got myself intentionally disqualified. Wow, that's a champion I want to root for. Someone who cuts corners. Nice. Great job. Rhea Ripley's presentation on Raw gets worse and worse every single week. So Charlotte comes out, and Charlotte's like, I respect what you did, because I would do the same thing, right? And Charlotte said, even though I respect what you did, that's not going to stop me from destroying you and eventually taking that title from you. So Sonya Deville is like, oh, so is that your way of asking for another Raw Women's Championship opportunity, Charlotte? Well, if it is, it's granted. And she just books Money in the Bank, Charlotte versus Rhea Ripley. So not only do we have to sit through another month of this garbage feud, I have not cared once. I'm not cared about Rhea Ripley and Charlotte once during this entire feud. And this is a feud that's been going on since WrestleMania. We're going on almost 3 months of this garbage. Because remember, Charlotte came back the night after WrestleMania and then went after Rhea Ripley and Asuka. And then we had WrestleMania Backlash. We had Hell in a Cell last night. And now here we are going to Money in the Bank. So 3 months of this garbage, I haven't cared for 1 second. So now we're going to have to sit through another month of garbage with Rhea Ripley and Charlotte just to get another match. And here's what's even worse. What is to keep Rhea Ripley from doing the same thing she just did at Money in the Bank or at Hell in a Cell? She got herself intensely disqualified in a normal match. So you're telling me if, at Money in the Bank, Rhea's in the same situation, she can just do the same thing. Why didn't, Sonya or Adam Pearce say, oh, the only way you can win this match is by pinfall or submission. Make it a no DQ match. That's the logical way of thinking. That's the logic you should be applying here. To keep Rhea or Charlotte from doing anything to disqualify their match so that we have a clear-cut winner. Because there's nothing stopping Rhea from doing the same thing if she's in the same situation. It's horrific booking. It's like they don't think about this. They don't. You're insulting my intelligence. You just book. Oh, yeah. Rhea got herself intensely disqualified last night. Oh, how are we going to fix the problem? We're going to book the same match. No changes. It's going to be the exact same match, just at another pay-per-view. This is the kind of garbage I'm talking about with this company. I could sit here behind a camera, behind a microphone, and book this company better than the people who get paid to do it. Oh, so nobody thought to make this match a no DQ match for Money in the Bank. We're just going to do the same match. So the chances of the same thing happening are still there. Nice job. Nice job. And I'm going to say this now. Like, I know I've been kind of like a broken record saying how, Charlotte didn't win at WrestleMania Backlash or she didn't win at Hell in a Cell. And I don't want to see Charlotte win regardless. You guys know I am not a Charlotte Flair fan. I am not Charlotte Flair fan, right? But clearly, right, if Rhea couldn't beat Charlotte at WrestleMania Backlash, right, because she didn't pin her, she pinned Asuka. If she didn't pin Charlotte at Hell in a Cell, she had to get herself intensely disqualified to remain champion. It's like they're telling you Charlotte's going to win at Money in the Bank. That's what they're telling me, right? Rhea Ripley can't beat Charlotte clean. So it's like they're delaying the inevitable. Charlotte is I'm going to say it right now, Charlotte's most likely going to win at Money in the Bank. And then we'll probably see Becky Lynch return then. That's what I think's going to happen. I don't want to see it, but at this point, right, you're not doing anything to make me want to see Rhea remain as champion. You're not. But we'll see. Garbage. Got some water on my glasses. Okay, let's get back to it. So next up, we had Randy Orton versus John Morrison Money in the Bank qualifying match. Before the match, Riddle went up to Randy backstage and asked for some advice for his qualifying match with Drew McIntyre, which would take place later in the evening. Orton said, "The only advice I have to give to you is stay out of my way," right? Because the chances of Riddle and Orton both interacting at Money in the Bank, and having to fight each other to get to that briefcase are high because they would both be in the same match, even though they are tag team partners at the moment. You guys already know, no matter what, Riddle or Orton, right? Riddle did qualify later in the night, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and Orton hasn't qualified yet because he does have another chance to qualify next week. But the chances of Orton and Riddle qualifying, or not qualifying, of both men winning the briefcase are low, right? It would be big for Riddle to win it, but he's probably not, because I feel like we all know that eventually Riddle and Orton are probably going to be the ones to dethrone AJ and Almas as the next Raw Tag Team Champions. I do think that's most likely going to happen at SummerSlam, so it would kind of be pointless to give Riddle the Money in the Bank. I'm not against it, but I just think the chances are low because they have something already set in stone almost for Orton and Riddle. And we know that Orton doesn't need Money in the Bank. He's already held the contract in the past. He doesn't need it. He's Randy Orton. He can get a WWE Championship opportunity whenever he wants, because he's Randy Orton. Doesn't need that briefcase to get a title match, right? So moving on to Randy Orton versus John Morrison. Miz was on commentary for a little bit of the match before supporting Morrison later on. Miz is still in a wheelchair, of course, because we know he's recovering from his knee injury. So the match, this wasn't a bad match. Orton, when he cares, he's one of the best in the company. And John Morrison, I know he gets a lot of crap, but Morrison's not a bad performer in the ring. So when we came back from break, right, that's where we'll pick up. We see Orton was dominating, and then Morrison was able to turn the tables when he went after Orton's knee. As Orton then started to begin momentum once again, he hit his draping DDT, and then we saw Miz. Miz tried to use one of Morrison's dripsticks to attack Orton, but Orton saw it beforehand and was able to stop it. So then Matt Riddle came out on his scooter and started chasing Miz around the ring, which looked very childish, right? Miz in the freaking wheelchair while Riddle's in the scooter. Like, what are we on? Are we on the playground? Like, what the hell are we going on here? But the distraction, because Orton was trying to tell Riddle, like, get out of here. Or, I don't need your help to, deal with Miz on the outside. The distraction led to Morrison able to hit Orton from behind, and then he ended the match with Starship Pain and got the win. So our second big upset of the night, we saw Morrison beat Orton. So earlier tonight we saw Ricochet win, and now John Morrison gets the win over Orton. I don't see Morrison winning Money in the Bank, right? I don't think he's gonna do it. But right now I'm noticing we got some high flyers. We got some high flyers in this match with Ricochet and Morrison. So I expect crazy things from them at Money in the Bank. But I don't think Morrison will win. I think he's just there, just to have a couple good spots, and that's about it. Moving on, we had Alexa Bliss and Nikki Cross versus Shayna Baszler and Nia Jax. Right, last night at at Hell in a Cell, we did have Alexa Bliss and Shayna Baszler. The match wasn't anything special. It wasn't terrible or anything. It was just, I would say, the worst match on the card. It just, you guys know I've been trying to care about Alexa Bliss's gimmick, but the way it's just been booked and, everything about it, nothing's been done right when it comes to Alexa Bliss. Nothing really. She did debut a new theme song tonight, but in terms of her match at Hell in a Cell, her putting like Reginald and Nia Jax in trances and all that, and her beating Shayna Baszler. At this point, Shayna Baszler does, it's like her new gimmick has become her losing thanks to crazy circumstances. No matter if it's freaking Pyro, no matter if it's freaking Reginald interfering, no matter if it's Alexa Bliss with her psychic powers, Shayna Baszler's new gimmick is just she just loses thanks to any bad circumstance. That's what it is. That's what it is. All right, but it's just a bunch of nonsense. So Alexa did beat Shayna last night, and this is like the continuation with it tonight. Plus, you guys got to remember, Nikki and Alexa are former tag team champions together. You know, because remember, they were two-time tag team champions, and they were a tag team for about a year. So this was like history, or this was a reuniting of history. But the thing about it is, as Bliss came out, Bliss, like I said, she had a new theme song, which is, it's not bad. It'll take some time to get used to. And I know a lot of people love her old theme song, but her new theme song isn't that bad. And then Nikki Cross, that's the other big thing. Nikki Cross has been repackaged, and I'm just like, why? Why? Look, when Nikki Cross first debuted in NXT, and she was part of Sanity, right? When she was part of Sanity, you know, that was the best Nikki Cross. Everything about Nikki Cross in NXT was right. The music, her crazy attitude, plus she was good in the ring. She got caught up to the main roster, and, you know, her gimmick wasn't changed too much, you know, but as Sanity was broken up, right? Eric Young went to Impact, Karen went back down to NXT, and Alexander Wolf went to be a part of Imperium. You know, Nikki Cross's gimmick didn't change too much, but then they put her in the team with Alexa Bliss, and then that's when her gimmick started changing. They had Nikki Cross start dressing similar to Alexa, and over time, Nikki got further and further away from the NXT gimmick that made her so great and so enjoyable to watch. Then, you know, they won the tag team championships. She had some really good matches with Bayley, but then they broke up Alexa and Nikki Cross once Alexa started getting close to The Fiend, back when we still cared about The Fiend. So then, Nikki got put on Raw, and they changed her theme song entirely. They gave her that, what was it, that wake up, like, you know, it was some, like, country theme song. It was terrible. And they were like, damn, Nikki Cross is nowhere near the NXT Nikki Cross tonight, or anymore. And we know that Nikki's been on this big run of momentum where she's beaten Rhea Ripley and Charlotte Flair multiple times over the last couple weeks. And now tonight, they have absolutely destroyed Nikki Cross in every way possible. Nikki Cross tonight debuted a new superhero gimmick. She talked about how, you know, the last couple of weeks she's felt motivated again, and now how she just wants to fill people with passion, and, you know, she wants to be a symbol for that no matter what life puts you through, you can persevere and take on anything life throws at you. She has been repackaged, and I tweeted this out during Raw, she has been repackaged into the female Hurricane. You guys all know the Hurricane. If you guys don't, just go search him on YouTube. Just search up what he did during the Attitude Era. And you guys, I will say this, you need wacky characters in WWE. You do. Not everybody can be a badass like a Sasha Banks or, you know, Drew McIntyre or a Brock Lesnar or a Roman Reigns or a John Cena. You need badasses. You do. Right? But, this is not what Nikki Cross needed. I've been complaining how Nikki Cross should have gone back to that NXT gimmick a long time ago. Now she is so far away. She's the absolute opposite of that gimmick now. She's a superhero. She's a superhero. She had a whole new music tonight. She had like a butterfly on her graphics. She's like, what the hell? This is what I'm talking about. When someone comes back up from NXT, Vince doesn't watch NXT, so he doesn't understand these characters. Even though Nikki Cross has been on the main roster now for about, I believe about a little over 2 years now. But the fact is, Nikki Cross should have never been turned into a superhero. Never. He never understood sanity. That's why they were broken up so soon after they debuted on SmackDown. And now, as the last couple of years, Nikki's gimmick has dwindled because Vince's lack of understanding of her NXT character was so bad to the point now that she is a superhero. She's a superhero. What are you doing to this women's division? You're releasing superstars left and right. You're booking people like garbage. As people who should be in Raw Women's Championship contention, like Naomi and Shayna Baszler, they aren't booked correctly. Nikki Cross is now a superhero. What? It's like all the work that went into the women's division the last couple of years. It's like it's all being thrown away every single week, more and more, to the point where they don't want you to care about the women's division anymore. That's the actual vibe I'm getting. It's like they don't want you to care about the women's division anymore. Why? What is this supposed to do? You're telling me this is going to be good for Nikki Cross's career? This is going to make people want to see Nikki Cross challenge for the Raw Women's Championship? No, it's not. It's not. Every time I see Nikki Cross on television, I'm going to cringe and disgust, and I'm going to think about how far WWE has taken her and stripped her away from the NXT gimmick that made us care about her to begin with. It's sad that we've gotten to this point. Nikki Cross is a superhero on Monday Night Raw. That's her gimmick now. That's her gimmick. How foolish can these people be? It's terrible, man. There is no reason for anybody to support this. Nobody. And I see Tokyo said this was Nikki's idea. It's sad because it should have come to the... If it was Nikki's idea, then you know what that tells me? That Nikki's at the point now where she'll do anything just to be on television. That's what it is. Because Nikki Cross has voiced her frustrations on social media of her not being used. She's doing anything to get Vince's attention just to be on television. Because Nikki knows how good she is. She knows she could be a valuable asset to that women's division. But she's so frustrated with her booking that at this point she's just like, I will do anything to be on television at this point. I'll be a freaking superhero if that's what I need to do. Because she doesn't want to sit back and be in catering and be viewed as a freaking afterthought. So if it was Nikki's idea, I feel bad for her. I really do. Because she deserves so much better. So much better. And it should have never came to this point of her being a superhero on WWE TV. It should have never gotten to this point. So we got the match. The match wasn't anything special. It was just whatever. Right? Nikki was posing like a comic book character. So then she actually got a good amount of offense here on Jackson Baszler. She hit Reginald at ringside with a crossbody from the top rope. So then Bliss tagged in after the commercial break and got a 2 count on Shayna. Then Jax came in and took control with some clubbing blows. Cross then got the tag and took it to Jax with a flurry of offense, right? But then there was a miscommunication that led to Jax being dropped off the apron. Bliss put Reginald in a trance that almost led to Reginald slapping Nia Jax. There was also a miscommunication. This was dumb. Jax was on the apron and Shayna was getting offense in on Nikki Cross. And then Nikki was able to get out of it and Shayna almost hit Nia in the face. Nia, like an idiot, assumed that Shayna was going for her when clearly everybody knew that Shayna was going for Nikki Cross, who had just reversed it. So Jax got off the apron and said, you do it yourself. Even though Jax forgot in that moment that if Shayna loses, it's not a normal match, right? This is the qualifier for Money in the Bank. So if Shayna loses, not only is Shayna out of a chance of being in the Money in the Bank ladder match, but so is Nia as well. So good job, Nia, looking like a dumbass in that situation. So then, like I said, Alexa put Reginald in the trance. That allowed Cross to take advantage and then roll up Shayna Baszler for the win. So Shayna and Nia are out of Money in the Bank as of right now, and Alexa and Nikki are in. So yeah, look, Would I be surprised if Alexa won the match? No, but I don't see her winning. Like I said, I don't know who's going to win this match. I don't think Nikki Cross is going to win, but, they are both in there. So we'll just see where they go from here. We had Matt Riddle versus Drew McIntyre in the last qualifying match of the evening. McIntyre showed off the battle wounds from his match with Bobby Lashley last night. And you can see the scars were huge. Wrestling is real, people. Wrestling is real. It's scripted, but it's real at the same time. McIntyre had some huge welts on his back. He told Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville beforehand that even though he was disappointed and frustrated by what happened at Hell in a Cell, he's not one to make excuses. And even as much pain as his body was in, he was going to move forward into trying to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. They didn't explain that if McIntyre won the match, how it would deal. Because remember, McIntyre can't fight Bobby Lashley for the WWE Championship, anymore, as long as Bobby Lashley is champion. So it's a little, iffy on, how that would work if McIntyre was to win Money in the Bank, but we're not there right now. McIntyre's not even in the Money in the Bank match at the moment, so, there's nothing really to think about or worry about there. But McIntyre went on to have this match with Riddle. I will say this. McIntyre did an amazing job of selling the injuries. An amazing job. I don't know how much pain McIntyre truly was in. Clearly, he had the welts in there. But the way McIntyre was selling, man, he did a great job of selling and make you actually believe that he was in an immense amount of pain from last night. So I will give McIntyre credit there. In terms of the match itself, the match was good. This was really good. This is McIntyre and Riddle, two of the best on Monday Night Raw we're talking about. So this was great. They were physical. They were really going at it. And like I said, the fact of how McIntyre sold his injuries and how, he was moving slow in the ring. He was holding his back every time he went for a move or he was hit. He was overselling, every time Riddle slammed him down to the mat, right? Great job. Great. So, I don't know. It made me want to see another match between McIntyre and Riddle down the line, a match where, McIntyre is more at 100%. I feel like these two could put an absolute banger on with a full match. But yeah. So Riddle hit McIntyre with some huge kicks to the back. McIntyre tried to stand through all the pain. He cornered Riddle and threw him across the ring. They went back and forth with strikes until McIntyre hit a shoulder tackle for a 2 count. Riddle hit an overhead belly to belly suplex on the floor. We come back from commercial and McIntyre was throwing Riddle from side to side. But even though with every move, McIntyre was in pain and, still couldn't, perform his moves with the normal ferocity and intensity he does them with. So McIntyre did his normal kip up, but he almost collapsed. That was a great moment because usually when he does the kip up, it's supposed to fire him up as he prepares, to try to go for the Claymore. But, when he kip up, it was more like his body was just like trying to tell him to go back down. And it didn't give him that, that intensity and that adrenaline it usually gives him. So then we saw several counters. McIntyre hit the Future Shock DDT for a close 2 count. And as they continue to go back and forth, Riddle was able to score an upset with a victory roll pinning combination. So I like that Riddle got the win. So we saw 3 big, huge upsets. Ricochet beating AJ Styles, John Morrison beating Randy Orton, and what's his name? Riddle beating Drew McIntyre. Really good stuff. I'm happy that Riddle got the win. It would have made me feel even more bad if Riddle couldn't beat McIntyre, who was nowhere near 100%. Nowhere near. So, I thought this would be McIntyre's victory also because, what else is McIntyre going to do? He can't fight for the WWE Championship as long as Bobby Lashley is champion. So it would kind of be like, okay, to at least keep him busy, because I still believe that once we do get the WWE draft, McIntyre's going to get moved to SmackDown. So I was like, all right, put him in the Money in the Bank ladder match. You don't need to have him win, right? He doesn't need to win. But put him in the Money in the Bank ladder match, to keep him busy until then. But they had Riddle win, but right after the match, Riddle went up the ramp and Randy Orton was watching. Orton didn't interfere in the match. He was just watching with his arms crossed. And Riddle kept, saying, hey, Randy, are you going to say something? Like, let me know. But Orton just kept staring at Riddle, with an intense look on his face. So I love the, the body language and, the interaction between Randy Orton and Matt Riddle. I never get sick and tired of seeing that. But, yeah. So it was announced after this match that we will be getting a triple threat last chance qualifying match next week. Because there's going to be 4 people from Raw, 4 people from SmackDown. We already have 3 of those names in Ricochet, John Morrison, and Riddle. And next week we'll be getting Randy Orton, McIntyre, and AJ Styles in a triple threat match to determine who would be the final entrance in the men's Money in the Bank ladder match. That's going to be great because those are 3 of the top superstars on Monday Night Raw, 3 of the top superstars in the company. So I expect that match to be an absolute banger next week. If I had to pick a winner, it's not. I think Styles is the least likely to win it just because Styles is already in a feud right now, and he's one half of the Raw Tag Team Champions with Almas, and they're feuding with the Viking Raiders. So, Styles doesn't need it, right? Orton, he's busy with Riddle, but Riddle's going to be in the match as well. So if they want to give it to Orton and maybe do some fun moments with Orton and Riddle inside the men's Money in the Bank match, they could do that. But I feel like it's most likely that McIntyre is going to get the win because there's nothing for McIntyre to do right now. Absolutely nothing. So, like I said, once we have the WWE draft after SummerSlam, I do expect McIntyre to get drafted to SmackDown, right? Because McIntyre needs to change the scenery. So I can definitely see them putting McIntyre in that match. Plus next week, McIntyre with a week of rest, will be in a much better position. He won't be at 100% probably, but he'll be in a better position. And I think he'll win that men's Money in the Bank qualifying match and be the final member of Raw in the match. I don't see him winning it, but it is something to keep him busy, for right now. Let me take a look in the chat. Do we have anything in there? All right, nothing so serious. Okay. We had a short segment with the Women's Tag Team Champions, right? So you guys remember last week, Natalya and Tamina were trading in the ring while Mandy and Dana Brooke were doing a photo shoot, right? Which led to, words between the teams about seriousness and what it takes to be champion. So this week they did a little bit of a role reversal. They had Tamina and Natalya getting interviewed, right? As part of, their duties and obligations of being champions, while Mandy and Dana were the ones in the ring training, right? Nothing special here, just a little bit of a role reversal. So clearly this is going to lead to a match between these two teams at some point. Not that I'm interested in it, it's whatever. I don't really care about anything going on in the women's tag team division, but I'm just mentioning it just because it was something that happened. They did also announce that next week on Raw, we'll be getting Elias versus Jackson Ryker in a strap match. This is to keep Elias from running away because Elias has ran away from his matches with Jackson Ryker the last couple weeks. So, yeah, that was that. Mansoor talked to Jackson Ryker backstage to ask for some advice And Riker gave some speech about, being a lone warrior and how he's going to keep alive for running next week. So, whatever. And Mustafa Ali was talking about Soar about how you shouldn't be taking advice from someone like that. You should be looking at how me and you were not even put in Money in the Bank qualifying matches and how we need to use that motivation to make our own ladder of success. So, like I said, I do like the dynamic with Ali Mansour, and I hope at least they'll become an official tag team soon. I feel like they can definitely make some noise in the Raw tag team division. NBA YouTube says he says, and I quote, "I saw a report that Vince believes the faces of the company are Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre, and he doesn't want them on the same show." I can get that, I can get that, but I'm gonna be honest with you guys. McIntyre needs to change the scenery, not as much as Roman Reigns, right? Roman Reigns is doing fine on SmackDown, but McIntyre, he's beaten everybody on Monday Night Raw, and he's been on Raw for a very long time. He's been on Raw ever since he came back, I believe, back in 2018. So he's been on Raw for the last 3 years. He's beaten everybody. He's been WWE champion. So I feel like putting Drew on SmackDown would be perfect. Do I think that WWE could potentially switch the world titles and have maybe Bobby Lashley on SmackDown and Roman Reigns on Raw? Maybe that is on the table. I don't think it's gonna happen, but who knows? Especially and if you were to do that, you would have to bring back the Red Universal Championship, right? With Roman being champion on Raw. So we'll see, but I don't know. We'll have to wait and see when we have the WWE draft. But I definitely think if anybody, Drew is one of the biggest names that needs a new change of scenery. He's been on Raw for way too long now, So I feel like Drew being the SmackDown needs to happen in the draft and should happen. So I would love to see a Drew versus Roman feud. They had that great match at Survivor Series last year. So I would love to see them continue that in a full-out feud over the Universal Championship. If Drew is put on SmackDown and Roman's still champion by that time. Moving on. Lastly, we had the Hell in a Cell match with Bobby Lashley and Xavier Woods. Like I said, this match should have never happened to begin with. It should have never happened because we've already seen it. I mean, I've already seen it. I'm not gonna say what I said at the beginning of the show. Hell in a Cell has been overdone. Just this weekend alone, we've seen 4 Hell in a Cell matches, and we shouldn't be seeing Hell in a Cell matches on Raw and SmackDown. That's not going to be what raises the ratings. Do not listen to these clown-ass executives who all they care about is ratings and money and don't know shit about the wrestling business and how to make it successful, right? I'm not saying this match between Xavier Woods and Bobby Lashley was bad, because it wasn't. It was not a bad match. I knew it was going to be at least semi-decent, right? Woods gave his heart out. Lashley brought the intensity, right? It was a good match. It just should have never been inside Hell in a Cell. They could have easily done this match without that Hell in a Cell gimmick. If anything, you should have just made a steel cage match. I would have complained, but you're taking away everything that makes Hell in a Cell special when you book the Hell in a Cell like this. Especially when you give us 4 Hell in a Cell matches in one weekend. Like, come on. So we saw Woods at the beginning of the match. As soon as the ref called for the bell, he hit a running drop kick. Lashley quickly cornered him for some shoulder thrust and a neck breaker. MVP and Kofi watched from outside the cage as Lashley ran Wood over with a clothesline. He went for a running spear and ended up hitting the ring post. Woods began the ride with some drop kicks and sent him back into the cage and a chair shot to the head. Right? A vicious chair shot to the head, actually. We came back from break, and Lashley trapped Woods under the ring so that he could unload on him. Woods then grabbed the kendo stick and went to work on Lashley's back. He hit a tornado DDT for a 2 count. Woods then put Lashley on the table and put him through with his diving elbow drop, which looked beautiful, but he couldn't get the pin. Then we saw Lashley send him into a chair that was wedged into the corner, and then he did the spear. Finally, he applied the hurt lock for the submission victory. So then afterwards, we saw MVP lock himself inside the cage, right, while Kingston was on the outside and couldn't get in. And then they continued to punish Woods in the hurt lock as the show went off the air. I like the visual of Kingston yelling into the cell, yelling at Lashley, let him go, while Lashley had Woods caged into the cell while he's still in the hurt lock, and MVP just talking shit. Clearly, this is like Lashley saying, you're not going to have Woods in your corner at Money in the Bank. So he can provide a distraction that will allow you to get another flawed victory over me. So I like that. Especially Lashley realizing that this time the WWE Championship is going to be on the line, right? So I did like, Lashley's like, I'm going to take you out, so there's no way you'll be in Kingston's corner. Right, there'll be nothing stopping me, no distractions. But the thing about it is, if I'm Kofi Kingston now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the same thing back. You take out my man, I'm going to take out yours. If I'm Kofi Kingston, next week I'm taking out MVP. Because we've seen MVP now get involved in most of Lashley's WWE Championship matches, which I don't have much of a problem with, right? He distracted McIntyre at WrestleMania, and then he actually did get involved with Lashley's match at Hell in a Cell. Right? He got into the cage and he kept McIntyre from pinning Bobby Lashley. So I could definitely see Kingston taking out MVP next week. Right? Kofi needs to show that ruthless side to him and be like, you do this to me, I'm gonna do it right back at you. If my boy can't be in my corner at Money in the Bank, I'm gonna make sure your guy who always interferes can't be in your corner. Right? So I had no problem with any of this. The only problem I have is them overdoing the money, or not the money, overdoing the Hell in a Cell. The Hell in a Cell match should have never been done. Oh, something. Wait, what do you mean? What happened with the audio? What are you guys talking about? Hold up. Oh, so I don't know. I don't know what was going on with the mic there. Maybe it's something with the USB. I've never had one problem with this microphone, so I don't know. Good to know that it was fixed. Sorry about that. I didn't even notice. So thank you guys for letting me know about that. But either way, Kingston versus Lashley should be a banger at Money in the Bank. If WWE gives them 20 to 25 minutes and absolutely, allows them to tell a story and everything, I really do think this could be one of the best matches we see on pay-per-view all year. This should be an absolute banger, right? And I really do hope that we get to see that serious side of Kofi Kingston these next couple weeks. No jokes, man. Going at MVP and Bobby Lashley, right? If anything, I don't know if MVP can compete anymore, but if he can, because I know MVP was injured, but if anything, I would have Kofi challenge MVP to a match next week and get his payback that way. But either way, next week I want to see Kofi get payback on MVP and take out MVP the same way they took out Xavier Woods. That's the next step in this story. All right. So that's it for Raw. Like I said, this show wasn't really that good, right? It was mainly focused around Money in the Bank qualifying matches. And, honestly, there wasn't too much. The show wasn't even overbearing. There was only like 7 or 8, major segments on this show. But the show wasn't terrible. It wasn't horrific, right? It was mainly just focused around the Money in the Bank qualifying matches, which were their bad. Was the show good? Was it a must watch? No. It's just gonna be interesting to see how the Money in the Bank field continues to play out. We should have our full, field of competitors for both the men and women probably by the end of next week's SmackDown. So then we can start making our predictions and seeing who's gonna win these matches. But yeah, that's my thoughts on Raw. I'm gonna talk a little bit about Hell in a Cell. I'm not gonna, give you guys a full out review. I've already kind of been giving you a mini review as we went through Raw. I told you guys what I thought about Alexa Bliss and Shayna Baszler already. That wasn't really anything special. I already talked about what was the other match I already talked about? I'm forgetting. Freaking hell. Let me just pull up the Hell to Sell notes for Bleacher Report real quick. Let me turn on my AC now. Fucking hot. It is so hot. Holy moly. Well, yeah, sorry, guys. I lost my train of thought there for a moment. So, yeah, we're talking about how... We already talked about... what was it? Alexa Bliss and Shayna Baszler. And we already talked about Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair, right? And like I said, I did not really enjoy this pay-per-view much. So, we'll talk about Bianca versus Bayley, since that was the match that opened the show. On the pre-show, you had Natalya versus Mandy Rose. Natalya did get the win over Mandy Rose by putting her in the sharpshooter, right? I heard that was an okay match. I didn't watch it. I didn't really care. That's whatever. But Bianca versus Bayley inside Hell in a Cell. I didn't do a SmackDown review, but if you guys saw or follow me on Twitter, this is why I would say follow me on Twitter, guys, if you guys have it. Because, you know, when I forget or I'm unable to do a SmackDown review, you know, I usually give my thoughts of the show on there. Look, Bianca versus Bayley was undeserving of Hell in a Cell. This feud has not been booked raw at all. After WrestleMania Backlash, you know, when they teased that we were gonna get another month of this feud, I was hopeful that them doing this match in Hell in a Cell would at least give us some story. The story has been these two laughing at each other. That's it. And Bianca viewing it as disrespectful. But the match hasn't been, or the feud itself hasn't been done well at all. At all. And on Friday, when they had Bianca challenge Bayley to a Hell in a Cell match, I was like, no. Bianca and Bayley does not deserve the match. They've done nothing to make you want to see the match inside Hell in a Cell. They're just doing it because there's no women's Hell in a Cell match this year, right? And they're just like, okay, we're just going to book this match inside Hell in a Cell just to do it. It's just like us getting Roman versus Rey on SmackDown in a Hell in a Cell match, even though these two have been feuding for only 2 weeks, and us getting Xavier Woods and Bobby Lashley inside Hell in a Cell tonight on Raw. It's like WWE doesn't care about what made Hell in a Cell so special. They don't care about it, you know, being about blood feuds. They're just doing it just because it's a gimmick to them. Like, oh yeah, let's just do Hell in a Cell just because. Just because. Look, I'm not gonna say that Bianca versus Bayley wasn't a good match. This was a good match. Was it great? Was it fantastic? Is it something I'm gonna go back and rewatch 1,000 times over? No. It wasn't. You know, as great as I see some people saying it. It was on social media. It was a good match. It was. I'll give Bianca and Bayley credit. These two have good in-ring chemistry with one another, and they made a good use of using Bianca's hair as a plot line. Bayley, you know, tied it to like a steel chair at one point during the match, right? It was good, but first of all, the match or the feud itself never deserved to be inside Hell in a Cell. And if you really do believe it should have been, you're part of the problem with this company. Because you allowed them to get away with crap that they shouldn't. Bianca and Bayley have done nothing to deserve the Hell in a Cell match. Even though the match was good, it was undeserving of the gimmick. It was. And basically, Bianca targeted Bayley's arm. She also bit her, used a kendo stick, and did a sunset flip powerbomb. We also then, or no, this was Bayley. My bad. Bayley bit Bianca, used the kendo stick, and did a sunset flip powerbomb. Bianca took all of it and tied her own hair to Bayley's wrist, right? And Bayley wouldn't be able to escape from Bianca's wrath, right? So, like I said, they made good use of Bianca's hair here. Later in the match, Bayley introduced a ladder, and this would prove to be Bayley's downfall. Bianca did a senton to the lower back of Bianca. Or no, I'm sorry, I'm getting my names wrong. Bianca did a senton to the lower back of Bayley, and then she did a KOD on the open ladder. That spot was great. The ending of this match was great. I love the senton, and then Bianca doing the KOD on the ladder. It looked absolutely brutal. Bayley did a great job of selling it. I would not be surprised if Bayley's back was in immense pain this weekend. All right, I would not be surprised if she woke up and her back was absolutely on fire. Right, that KOD on the ladder looked absolutely vicious, and was a great way for Bianca to win the match and put a nice little end on this feud. Right, even though the feud itself has not been good, at least the matches at WrestleMania Backlash and Hell in a Cell were okay. Right. None of them compared to her match with Sasha Banks at WrestleMania, right? But still, the matches were okay. Even though I don't think Bianca and Bayley was deserving of being inside Hell in a Cell, right? At least the match, was okay. It was decent, right? So clearly, where does Bayley go from here? I could definitely see Bayley being in the Money in the Bank ladder match. I could also see potentially maybe Bayley even being one of the favorites to win it. Would I have Bayley win the match? No, I wouldn't. I would not have Bayley win the match. She doesn't need it, right? And I don't see her cashing in on Bianca Belair. But we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. But I definitely think Bayley being in the Money in the Bank ladder match, that would be a good thing to keep her busy for right now. But Bianca, what I could definitely see for Bianca is, I don't think Sasha's going to be coming back before Money in the Bank. I think Sasha Banks the most logical thing, unless Sasha returns this Friday on SmackDown, which I don't think is happening. I think the most logical thing for Sasha would be the return on the first SmackDown with live fans. You could put Sasha in the Money in the Bank ladder match, but I don't want to really see. Well, I'm not gonna say I don't want to see it. I don't think Sasha needs Money in the Bank. True, it would be cool to see Sasha being called. Especially because she, Banks is her last name. There's a lot of cool taglines you could do, like "Boss in the Bank," right? There's a lot of cool things you can do when talking about Sasha Banks and her being Miss Money in the Bank. But Sasha doesn't need it. She's one of the best in the world, right? She doesn't need the Money in the Bank briefcase to get a SmackDown Women's Championship opportunity. And I would not do the rematch between Sasha and Bianca at Money in the Bank. I would save it for SummerSlam, right? And then we can talk about later on, should Sasha beat Bianca at SummerSlam, if that's the case. What I would do with Bianca, I would give her a filler feud, right? They've been, kind of building Carmella back up these last couple of weeks in this feud with with Liv Morgan, So if you want, you can do a little filler feud with Carmella and Bianca, nothing too special. And this would be a big test for Bianca. With everything that they've done, with Bianca, right? Everybody telling me that Bianca has to be Sasha at WrestleMania, right? If Bianca truly is this big star, and I want Bianca to succeed, but they have done a poor job of presenting Bianca ever since she beat Sasha at WrestleMania. Even before that, they've done a poor job of presenting Bianca. You wanna put Bianca up to the test, do something like this. Have have Bianca Belair at WrestleMania, or not WrestleMania. Have Bianca Belair at Money in the Bank, right? Face Carmella, and let's see, can Bianca Belair bring Carmella to a great match? Can Bianca Belair put on a great match with someone that's not the 4 Horsewoman, right? I would say Bianca is a better wrestler than Carmella. So, can Bianca bring someone that's not as good or better than her, right? Can Bianca, I messed it up. Can Bianca Belair bring somebody that's not as good as her to a great match, right? Because Bianca's best matches have been with people on her level or greater than her, like Bayley and Sasha Banks, right? Can Bianca now do it with somebody that's not as good as her with Carmella? Carmella's a respectable talent. We know Carmella is a decent in-ring wrestler. She's not terrible, right? If they do Bianca and Carmella at Money in the Bank, can Bianca bring Carmella to a great match? Because if she can, that will tell me that Bianca is ready a little bit more. I would have a little bit more confidence in Bianca. But, if she can't, then that tells me that Bianca's push was rushed. Like I've been saying these last couple months. But, if you do Bianca and Carmella at Money in the Bank, that would be a big test. So let's see if she can live up to the challenge. But nothing's been confirmed yet. We'll see what happens with Bianca on Friday. We'll see what's next for her. But I feel like it's most logical and most likely that we're going to be getting Bianca and Carmella at Money in the Bank as a filler feud to set up. And, because we all know the big match. Everyone wants to see the Sasha and Bianca rematch. And SummerSlam is the perfect place for that. So, next, we had Seth Rollins and Cesaro. There was a point in time where some people thought that Cesaro and Seth could be deserving of Hell in a Cell. These two have been feuding these last couple months, right? And we know that they had the great match at WrestleMania. Everyone's still talking about that airplane spot, And we did have Cesaro versus Roman Reigns, which was another fantastic match at WrestleMania Backlash. But right after that match, Seth Rollins attacked Cesaro off the air, or as the show went off the air. And then we saw Seth again attack Cesaro multiple times after that on the weeks to come. So we thought, tonight would probably be the end of the feud. And maybe if they wanted to, they could do another Roman and Cesaro match at Money in the Bank. Because we're all hoping we get the big mega match, right, with John Cena and Roman Reigns at SummerSlam. But this match tonight this match at Hell in a Cell, it was eh. I mean, it was eh. It was okay. It was nowhere near as great as their WrestleMania match. And I know these two can put on something better. This match wasn't, all the way it for me. It wasn't. I'm not saying it was bad. I don't think Seth and Cesaro can put on a bad match. But I was just like, it's missing. It didn't feel like they were going full force. Plus, you didn't have the crowd like they had at WrestleMania. So I was just like, The match wasn't terrible, but I was like, and I wasn't really feeling it that much. I wasn't really feeling it. So Seth attacked Cesaro during his entrance. Right? We saw Seth dominate for the most part. Cesaro got his kicks in here, but this was mainly a Seth Rollins clinic. We saw Cesaro hit his normal uppercuts and jabs. Rollins then reestablished control, but Cesaro then delivered the swing. He then went for the sharpshooter, then a crossface, but Rollins wrestled him and hit him with a roll-up. I don't understand what WWE's addiction with roll-ups is. We're seeing them so often these days. But yes, that's how Rollins won this match with a roll-up. Rollins celebrated at ringside while Cesaro hung his head in defeat. So clearly, I guess if you don't count, technically now it's 2-1. Because Cesaro won 2 matches against Cesaro won 2 matches against Seth, because remember, he won the WrestleMania match. Then he won the match on SmackDown against Seth when you had that interference by the Usos, which led to Cesaro getting the match against Roman at WrestleMania Backlash. And then Seth got the win tonight. So this was to avenge his WrestleMania loss. So technically it's 2-1. I don't know if the feud's going to continue. You know, I could definitely see WWE maybe doing something like they do Seth and Cesaro again on SmackDown, and then Seth gets another win over Cesaro to tie it up at 2-2, and then they can do the final match at Money in the Bank. Look, I don't really care much about this feud anymore, right? I kind of just want to see these two go on to do something else. But I would definitely not be surprised if WWE continues this going into Money in the Bank or going into SmackDown these next couple of weeks, right? I also, you know, Seth and Cesaro, they're prime candidates to be in the Money in the Bank ladder match. I could definitely see this Friday on SmackDown, Seth and Cesaro wrestling again, you know, with the winner being put in the men's Money in the Bank qualifying, or the men's Money in the Bank ladder match for the SmackDown side. I could definitely see that. I'm gonna give a prediction and say WWE is gonna do that. I think this Friday on SmackDown we're gonna see Seth versus Cesaro in a men's Money in the Bank qualifying match, right? And if that is announced before SmackDown, you heard it here first. But we'll see what happens. Like I said, I'm kind of uninterested at this point. I don't really care about it anymore. But we'll see. Clearly, this feud is not over yet. Like I said, we already talked about Alexa Bliss and Shayna Baszler. We had Kevin Owens versus Sami Zayn. Look, this is another feud that I'm just like, I'm over. Look, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, they have fantastic chemistry. Fight forever, we all know it. But we've seen these two in the ring so many times, it's hard for them to give us a classic. Really, it is. It's hard. You know, they've had so many great matches in the past, and these two are incapable of giving us a bad match. It's just like, what else can these two do in the ring together? Honestly, their feuds have already been over. When Kevin beat Sami at WrestleMania and then hit Logan Paul with the stunner, which in my opinion was a great moment. I loved it, right? That should have been the end of it. I want to see Kevin Owens challenging for the Intercontinental Championship and Apollo Crews. I don't know why this addiction that Sami Zayn has with Kevin Owens is still going, right? Like, the match at Hell in a Cell wasn't bad, but it's just like they didn't do anything that we haven't already seen these two do. So the match was just It was another match to me, similar to Seth Rollins Cesaro. Like, you know, incapable of being a bad match, but nothing special. Nothing that got me jumping out of my chair. So, like, I'm just sitting there like, Like, what are we doing here? KO was selling the effects of the Nigerian nail that he suffered from the hands of Commander Aziz a couple days before on SmackDown, and Zayn dominated this match as Owens was on the defensive, right? Owens was also selling a shoulder or wrist injury, right? Pat McAfee and Michael Cole on commentary were speculating which one it is, but clearly, no matter if it was a shoulder or wrist injury, it was like, Owens was wrestling with one arm. But still, Owens did get some offense in. And at one point, he hit Zayn so hard that Zayn had a little bit of a bloody nose. But still, Zayn was able to hit the haluva kick because remember, KO was clearly not 100%, selling the effects of the Nigerian nail. And then also, whatever was going on with his arm, Zayn was able to hit the haluva kick and get the victory. So he was able to avenge his loss from WrestleMania 37. All right. Owens, after the match, was complaining to the ref that he was having trouble breathing, selling the effects of the Nigerian nail, like I just told you guys. So this feud is not over, right? Look, they have amazing chemistry. Amazing chemistry. They can't put on a bad match. But it's just like they're dragging this. There's like, what else can Owens and Zayn do together? What else could they tell from a story perspective to make you care? That's like, come on. So, I don't know. I want to see KO become IC champion, personally. I would love to see him be the guy to take down Apollo Crews eventually. So maybe, you know, they're having Owens struggle because he lost to Commander Aziz on SmackDown. He lost to Sami Zayn, right? He's been losing a lot lately. Hopefully this leads to KO getting this ultimate, and especially since he's the babyface, maybe KO can make this, you know, huge comeback where eventually he gets the last laugh. He gets payback on Commander Aziz. He gets ultimate payback on Sami Zayn. And then he eventually takes down Apollo Crews for the IC title. I would love to see that. Maybe that's where they're going here, right? Oh, there's another huge moth in my room. I would love to kill it, but it's flying. No, come on. Oh. Damn it. I may have got it. I don't know. Yep, I got it. Ah, yes. Finally. I hate freaking moths. Like, I don't know why it's always when I'm recording these damn moths and little flies want to bother me. But anyway, at least I killed it. But anyway. I see Edward in the chat. Edward says that KO is taking a break. I don't know. I haven't heard any reports of that. Maybe this is to get KO off TV for a little bit. Who knows? But like I said, I would love to see KO come back and become... I would love KO to come back and become a champion once again. I want to see that prize fighter. I have no problem. I love KO as a babyface. I love him. They can, you know, they can always turn KO heel, but I want KO to come back as a babyface and get at least one babyface championship run under his belt. I want to see KO fight and become a champion again. I would, you know, hopefully he's the guy to take down Apollo, but if he's not, it is what it is. You can also have Shinsuke Nakamura maybe be the guy, right? You know, if KO is taking a break from WWE for a little bit, you know, Shinsuke just got out of this feud with Baron Corbin when they were fighting over the King of the Ring crown. So, hey, Shinsuke would be perfect to challenge Apollo Crews. So I would have no problems with that. But, you know, we'll see where this is going. Zayn gets his win back. So we'll see if we get a third match and see if Owens can get his payback or if Owens is taking breaks. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens on SmackDown. Last but not least, because we already talked about Rhea Ripley versus Charlotte Flair when we were talking about Raw, we had Drew McIntyre versus Bobby Lashley, Hell in a Cell. You guys already know the stipulation, right? If Lashley won, McIntyre would not get another WWE Championship match. This was a really good match. It started off slow, but in the last 10 to 15 minutes, it really picked up. So, getting into it, these two went after each other as the match began. Lashley used MVP's walking crane as a weapon, while McIntyre shook off its effects like he was like Hulk Hogan, and then he hit a huge air raid crash on the ring steps. Vicious. So then he did a reverse Alabama slam, face first into a steel chair. He escaped a hurt lock attempt, and then he slammed Lashley down for a 2 count. Lashley answered by shoving the challenger into the ring steps. Then he drove him into the cage. Later in the match, McIntyre did hit Lashley with a Claymore kick, and I thought it was over, but MVP got into the cage, right? And this was because McIntyre hit Lashley into a referee, which allowed to the second referee having to unlock the cage to get in, and that's how MVP got in. Because remember, the whole point of the match being Hell in a Cell was to keep MVP out, so that McIntyre could focus on Lashley with no distractions. But when the referee got laid out, of course, the secondary referee had to unlock the cage to get in, and that's how MVP got in as well. So McIntyre, like I just said, McIntyre hit Lashley with a vicious Claymore kick, which I thought would be the end, but MVP, since he was inside, was able to grab McIntyre's foot and take him off of and was able, he was able to take him off of Lashley. So now McIntyre then went on the attack, going after MVP. He hit MVP with a Claymore kick, but that would not be the last of MVP we would see. We would see MVP pop up later after McIntyre hit a Future Shock DDT. And then as McIntyre went for another pin, MVP held him by the foot, and then Lashley was able to roll up McIntyre for the win. I was happy when we saw this because, like I said, you guys know I want I want Lashley to retain at all costs. I love Drew, right? And I wouldn't mind seeing him as champion again, but it's Lashley's time. It's one of the reasons why I kind of want to see McIntyre get moved over to SmackDown, because he needs a change of scenery, right? He's been in the WWE Championship picture for the last year and a half, so he needs a little bit of a break. This is Lashley's time. So I was happy to see Lashley win, right? But I didn't really like the finish. The Hell in a Cell, this match was really good, especially like I said in the last 10 to 15 minutes. So I didn't like, with everything these two hit each other with, I didn't like that it ended with a roll-up. I would have rather just done, MVP interfering, and then Lashley puts McIntyre into the Hurt Lock, and then McIntyre passes out. I would have rather seen that. Or maybe Lashley win like the spear, because we know that's like his secondary finisher. I would have rather seen that instead of, having a cheap roll-up win. But it is what it is. It was a, good match. A good way to end the feud. A feud that's actually deserving of Hell in a Cell. Really good match between these two. Happy that Lashley was able to get the win. And, hopefully we're just a step closer to getting that dream match with Lashley and Lesnar at SummerSlam. And as the show went off the air, Lashley and MVP celebrated as, he held the WWE Championship up, while McIntyre looked depressed. They kept panning back and forth with McIntyre celebrating with Lashley celebrating. They kept panning with Lashley celebrating at the top of the stage, and then McIntyre just sitting there depressed how he won't be getting a WWE Championship opportunity anytime soon as long as Lashley remains champion. Right? So, like I said, we're getting Lashley and Kofi at Money in the Bank, which I love. I wouldn't mind seeing Kofi win, but I don't think Kofi's gonna win. I see Lashley winning in what should be a banger of a match. If WWE takes it seriously, has the chance to be, one of the best pay-per-view matches of the year, in my opinion. And then, if Lashley wins a Money in the Bank, I would then have Brock Lesnar return, and then we get Lashley versus Lesnar at SummerSlam, which I would have Lashley retain, which would be Lashley's biggest win ever. So that's how I would book the WWE Championship going forward. And guys, I've already said it so many times. McIntyre needs to go to SmackDown. That should be his direction going forward. I love Drew McIntyre, but his time as WWE Champion, or at least in the WWE Championship scene, should be over for right now. Anyway, that's about it, man. That's about it. We've been going on for close to 2.5 hours, right? I'm kind of surprised that we're not near the 3-hour mark, but still, I'm happy that I was able to do both Hell in a Cell and Monday Night Raw at once tonight. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this mega stream. We talked about Monday Night Raw. We also talked about Hell in a Cell. It is what it is. Hell in a Cell wasn't really a good show. Raw wasn't really the best show, but still, we reviewed it just like we always do. Like I said, if you guys don't watch the show, I will suffer for you guys and watch through it, and I appreciate you guys' support as always. I'll look in the chat real quick. Edward says, I want Bobby to go babyface after Money in the Bank. I wouldn't mind Bobby Lashley turning babyface. I would just say, though, Bobby is kind of boring as a babyface, so I don't know. NBA YouTube says Brock's not losing his first match back. We'll see. Look, I'm going to be honest with you guys with Brock. Brock is great, especially when Lesnar cares. That's the best Brock we get. Let's look at Lesnar versus Styles or Lesnar versus Seth Rollins like at SummerSlam. Right? When Lesnar cares, he is one of the best in the business. Look, Lesnar's at the point now, especially because he's 44 years old. He should no longer he doesn't need the world championship at this stage. You know, Lesnar doesn't care about being champion. Lesnar cares about getting paid. As long as Lesnar gets paid, he'll do anything. Lesnar should be putting people over. Lashley doesn't need to be losing to Lesnar. Lesnar should be putting people over and validating Lashley's reign as WWE champion. That's what WWE should be doing. It's simple. It's simple. All right? You know, I would be having Lesnar come back and putting over guys like Bobby Lashley, like Keith Lee, if Keith Lee ever returns, you know? But I don't know what's going to happen going forward. I don't. But, you know, that's what I would be doing with Lesnar if he comes back. I don't need to see Lesnar as champion again. If Lesnar comes back and he faces Lashley at SummerSlam, Lashley needs to win. It's simple. It's as simple as that. Simple as that. But yeah, other than that, guys, that's all I got for you guys today. You know, thank you guys for all the love and support. Yeah, I know this was a long ass stream. For those of you guys who sat through it, the entire thing, no matter if you guys were watching the stream live or watching via playback, thank you guys. You guys are amazing. You guys are the reason why I do this. Look, you know, as bad as WWE is, man, you guys make this worth doing. And plus, man, I always have the hope that one day WWE will fix its problems. And still, like, I am still kind of excited for Money in the Bank at SummerSlam, you know, because we're going to have fans in attendance. John Cena coming back, Sasha Banks coming back, Becky and Brock Lesnar are most likely going to be back as well. You know, I'm excited for it. You know, so still there are some things to look forward to, even though it can be hard, especially with the way WWE does things. But other than that, guys, that's about all I got for you guys today. Thank you guys for joining me here on the review. I'm going to get out of here. If you guys are new to the channel, leave a like on this video. Subscribe if you guys are new by hitting the bell right next to my name, Fitz TV, so you guys are notified every time I post a new video. Thank you guys as always. I'll be back here later this week. I have tons of other stuff. Check out my other content like anime, all that good stuff. My Hero Academia, Dragon Ball, all of that. But until then, I'll see you guys later. Have a great night, guys. Peace.